Okay, Mr. Galish, thanks so much for speaking with NDTV. Let me begin by asking you, we're of course going to discuss the larger, India-US tech partnership and what it really means for the world. But talk to us first about the role of the USIBC as far as, the Bengaluru Tech Summit is concerned, and what are the kind of outcomes that are actually expecting at the summit.
Sure. Well, firstly, thank you for inviting me today. It's wonderful to be back in India. It's like a second home for me. And as a technologist, India has always had a special place in my professional life, but my personal life as well. So it's great to be back here for the Bengaluru Tech Summit, as well as the Global Partnership on AI next week. These are important conversations that India is leading around the technology space, and we're glad to be part of it. I lead our efforts around the digital economy at the U.S. India Business Council. We're part of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Our mission is to promote trade, growth, innovation, job creation, and those sorts of elements. And I do that within the critical industry of technology, which is really spread from traditional commercial IT services to a much larger set of activities around, critical and emerging technologies, commercial space, AI, secure supply chains, manufacturing, chip development, those sorts of things.
Absolutely. And, at this summit, I'm sure you've also sort of noticed some interesting tech trends and, the kind of, sort of partnerships that you're seeing. Give us a sense of that, because we are, of course, both the close diplomatic allies now, India and the
Yeah.
US, have talked about a partnership, a tech partnership for the future. But on the ground, or when you meet people, when you meet leaders in the tech sector, young techies, what are the kind of trends that you're actually seeing, and in the largest spirit of collaboration as well?
Well, I think the most important thing that you see is a maturing of the relationship. I think in the past, it was a lot of American investment in back offices having India develop technology for the world. Now what's happening is India is developing technology for the world, yes, but also developing it for itself and modernizing really quickly. At the same time, you see very distinct shifts in things like capital investment, as well as venture capital, and as well as the usages. So you're seeing a much more mature two-way trade where you're seeing a lot of Indian companies look to develop products and services for both the Indian and the American market. And obviously, you still maintain those older ties where American industry and users benefit from India's just incredible technical capability as well. Now, in terms of specific sectors, and you referenced our growing strategic partnership, we've moved from the sort of baseline commercial and more daily types of products and services around information technology to much more critical and strategic pieces of the technology puzzle. You have much more R&D happening in India. You have very high-end R&D happening in advanced manufacturing, in chip development, semiconductors, as well as other areas that are really important to all nations, commercial space and how those technologies are developed and used. Certainly, talk of the town now is about artificial intelligence, and you see a lot of capability and activity occurring in India, again, in a much more mature way, where Indians are not just developing the technology, they're using the technology. They're not just selling it internationally, but they're using it domestically to benefit their own industry and people.
Absolutely. And you talked about, in a sense, a paradigm shift that we're seeing in terms of this tech partnership, and innovation seems to be the cornerstone of this partnership. In fact, both India and the US have talked about collaborating to an extent that we could exploit each other's innovative capabilities as well. So talk to us about that. How important is innovation as a principle driving this partnership? At the same time, taking a cue from that, this memorandum of understanding that was signed, which also had innovation as a very important principle. So talk to us about that.
Well, there's two separate things around the BTS event, USIBC and others. There were two or three kind of key things that happened. One, we signed an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, with the government of Karnataka. Clearly, Bangalore is not only one of the leading technology cities and destinations in India, it's a global provider. And so working with the government of Karnataka in that realm is really great. It has two sides. One, how do we promote innovation? What are the skills, the policies, that we need to attract FDI, to utilize technology in a secure, safe, and trusted manner. And the other side is how do we resolve very specific business issues when
Hmm.
companies, technologists, or investors come to India and may have certain bottlenecks that we want to correct or fix. And so it has those two pieces where we can help promote the state's role, obviously within an India context, and then resolve and facilitate any particular issues. The second
Yeah.
big announcement that occurred is the governments announced the formal launch of a US-India commercial space working group. And those types of technologies cover not only space, launch, which is very exciting. You know, when you
Yeah.
talk about astronauts and exploration and launching rockets, that's all very, very exciting and enticing
And we are
technology.
also looking at a possibility perhaps of a woman astronaut, and that is very exciting indeed. But it's a very opportune time, as you said, when it comes to whether it's space or artificial intelligence. We're in the thick of things, really. So, what are the kind of opportunities that the US actually sees in India going forward?
Yeah. Well, this comes at a number of different levels. I mean, certainly you have the geopolitics of it all, where I think there's an increased understanding that technology, capability, and those sorts of attributes are really important to national security, ultimately economic, as well as geopolitically. And the United States and India clearly have come together. Earlier in the year, they officially launched the Initiative for Critical and Emerging Technologies. There's also other government-to-government agreements known as the Innovation Handshake or the
Yeah.
Indus-X Space Innovation Bridge, a Defense and Space Innovation Bridge. Those sorts of things mark the geopolitical technology activities. But now at a commercial level, India and the United States have very clear and long-term synergies. And the way we work together on technologies is really phenomenal, and it's benefited both countries tremendously. It includes a lot of American investment expertise and corporate activity here through outsourcing and, of course, global in-house centers. But also it impacts where American technology has supported India's digital transformation.
Yeah.
You can look around in terms of types of technology that Indians are using. But of course, then there's Indian corporate growth and the maturity that I want to refer to. And you're seeing a lot more Indian platforms and technologies and brands sort of be the center in their own right of innovation. And then they're tapping global markets. And of course, the United States is one of the most open and lucrative global markets, and Indians are benefiting of that. And at the core of this, I think it's really critical to note you have very, very strong people-to-people ties, lots of Indian students, a very strong Indian American diaspora, and all of that are enablers of this overall technology economy and ultimately societal and geopolitical benefits.
That's a very interesting point you're making, that ultimately it's about the people, and we're
Yeah.
talking about a story of aspiration, where we're seeing India is rapidly digitizing faster than ever before. As far as the US is concerned, we have a lot of Indians there, Indian techies, who are part of the America story as well. Talk to us about, my last question to you, what does this actually mean for young tech aspirants, so to speak? What is it
Yeah.
what's in it for them?
I mean, that's a great question. I take this from two sides. One you have a very large, strong, and capable Indian youth that have strong math, science skills, and they're going to enter corporate America. They're going to do
Yeah.
lots of great things in terms of technology development. There's now a cultural willingness in India. I think it's somewhat new that you can take risks
Yeah.
and you can fail. And the whole part of entrepreneurship is winning is much better and success is better, but
Yeah.
there's often problems along the way. And so that's actually great on the corporate side. And you see that in India's incredibly dynamic, entrepreneurship and startup ecosystem. But there's a hidden gem here that most people don't really talk and see. And one of the cores of this ISET initiative that I mentioned is significantly stronger and deeper ties on the academic and government research angle. The governments are actually allocating money jointly and cross-pollinating each other's projects. So you see a huge amount of research going into things like cyber physical systems and
Yeah.
quantum and AI. And this is happening in government labs and academia. And again, this goes back to person ties as well. These are researchers on both countries that are coming together because they know each other or they have research that they want to combine, and they're going to the government who's providing some financial resources.
Right.
And where this comes together, and this is actually really critical, Vedant, is that spin-offs from academia are one of the cores, the seeds, the gems that actually emerge in startup ecosystems. They provide the technology, but
Yep.
also the up and down maturity and access to seasoned and really high-end advanced technology. And that reinforces itself to the commercial side that I started with.
Absolutely, and it's really exciting to hear all of that. And now is the time, as they say. Thanks very much, Mr. Galish, for that perspective there, and lots in it for youngsters, for young techies from both countries. Thanks very much, sir, for joining us.
Wonderful, and thank you for the time. Bye now.
Bye.